Well, it's now time for us to take a closer look. And Cisco Live was last week, Cisco Live US, and the opening keynote was dripping with AI, as all good tech keynotes are these days. Cisco's product lineup for the rest of the year and into the future is going to embrace AI agents and information for networking operations and security as well. The CEO, Chuck Robbins, and Chief Product Officer, Jeetu Patel, talked about all the integrations of AI into their offerings. From dashboards to NVIDIA network technology, Cisco is pushing AI into infrastructure. One of the big discussions was around AgenticOps, the Cisco term for agent-based networking operations. They also discussed how they would help build the AI data centers for the future with pod-based architectures and more. Tom, you were there. Apparently it was a little grey for San Diego. What did you see at Cisco Live?
Well, hold on just a second. Let me consult my LLM. What were the big announcements from? Yeah, it's going to take too long. Cisco's going all in on this, but we know they had to because that's what the market is telling every company they need to do. The way that I described it to people was it's the look busy, the boss is coming mentality. You need to be doing something with AI. What? I don't know, but I need to see that you're doing something. And I get the perspective that they're coming from. And honestly, they're kind of taking the right approach. They have years, decades at this point of institutional knowledge that is built around the idea of building better networks, right? Like just something as simple as a Cisco solution reference network design. That is a way that you're supposed to build a network with Cisco gear. Makes total sense. Now, implement all of that into an AI model and have that AI model consult on the way that you're building things. Seems pretty easy, right? Until you start hitting hiccups. And that I think is where this is going to matter more than anything. What happens when my brownfield doesn't look like your perfect ivory tower design? How can I adjust for these things? How can I ensure that this piece is going to work if that piece fails? Even stupid questions like which routing protocol should I use to tie these things together is not always a straightforward answer, depending on what kind of technical debt you're dealing with. The other thing is that there's a lot of talk about AI security, right? Like using AI to do threat hunting, to notice patterns, integrate that with Splunk, be able to offer that to more people. The idea, and this was on every pedicab in San Diego that was right around the convention center, ask us about agentic ops. The idea is that they want to build these agent-based AI systems that are going to help operations teams run their networks. Will it work? That is a big question for people because, as I've discussed with people, even just today, there is an issue between operations and engineering personnel that will ask AI a question and then they will immediately question the results unless it's something they have deep knowledge about and trust it implicitly. And that trust takes time to build. Cisco's agentic stuff may come back with a little bit better of an option because it's like, well, in a perfect world, we would do this. But we also still have to implement those solutions, and not everybody lives in a perfect world. I would hope that this will turn out for the better because everybody seems to need AI in everything that they do. And not to be outdone, because this is the other thing you mentioned, they're also building the infrastructure that will run those massive AI engines. Cisco is one of the first companies that was allowed to build Spectrum X network technology that isn't named NVIDIA. Now, I've said in the past, I think I mentioned this after we heard the initial announcement of this just after Cisco Live Europe, that one of the reasons why I think this is happening is because NVIDIA realizes that Cisco has a very tight hold on some accounts in the market. And the only way that they are going to be able to get in there is if they partner with a company that has a proven track record. Not saying NVIDIA doesn't have a track record, but when's the last time you went shopping for an NVIDIA switch that wasn't built into an NVIDIA AI pod? The answer is probably not. It goes back to like when I used to deploy blade centers in school districts. Most people would just use the cheapest switch option that was in there, even if it didn't run anything even remotely related to an operating system that I could work on, which is where a lot of my frustrations came from trying to figure out how to make these switches work. And more than once, I told people, I'm like, why didn't you just order the Cisco switch? And they're like, well, it was too expensive. So I think that Cisco's trying to position themselves as being a key component of AI infrastructure in the future, while also using AI to help their infrastructure, you know, be easier to use, be easier to manage. I don't necessarily know that that means that you're going to be reducing operations personnel, because that's usually the first thing that people say, right? It's like, oh my God, they're going to get rid of me, and I'm not going to have a job because my job is this, this, and this. I'm like, either your job is doing things that should be automated already, or they're going to keep you on and have you tackle the hard problems, in which case you get to learn and grow as a network engineer. And that's how all of us started out. Like, I wasn't birthed knowing everything there is to know about the CCIE. That came later. But it was when I got into those problems that were not just a quick fix, a quick typo, that I was able to say, okay, this is how these interactions happen. I used it for the experience that it was. And I'll tell you that making mistakes is something, one, that people need to do to learn, and two, AI is surprisingly good at and surprisingly bad from learning from. I mean, Al, you've worked a lot with AI, and honestly, you being the event lead for AI Infrastructure Field Day have seen a lot of companies that are doing AI infrastructure. Do you think Cisco is going to be able to keep up with this?
I think there's some really cool things in what Cisco has announced. So definitely that integration with Spectrum X using certified connectivity between the NVIDIA NICs that might be in your GPU pod and your Cisco switches, that seems like a pretty big deal. And the whole idea of having this secure AI factory and having some AI defense within that secure AI factory. Notice there seems to be an awful lot of security being talked about in here in AI, because so I was actually writing yesterday in an article, there's a whole new attack vector into your organization, which is poisoned models turning up on Hugging Face. And that this is a great way of getting a new type of executable file inside your nice, squishy, soft network. And so, yeah, I like that there's a big focus on here on governance of these models and guardrails and a lot of the things that are important when you come to running these models in production. Because running in production is where you're getting business value out of your investment in AI. And so having a design here that focuses on what's important when we're running in production, governance, guardrails, that's making sure that your AI doesn't go rogue and start sending out all of your internal HR information at a request from somebody out on the internet. These pieces are really significant and important as you're building out an infrastructure. Tom, you talked about trust, and Cisco is pretty significantly trusted in most of the large enterprise organizations around the world. Um, the cost of Cisco may not be the most popular thing, but then when we're talking about AI infrastructure, your network infrastructure is not particularly expensive next to those $20,000 a piece GPUs that you're buying 20, 40, 50, 1,000 of. The network infrastructure certainly is a significant cost normally, but not when these GPUs come into play. Even the x86 server cost and your SSD cost is small compared to the GPU cost, let alone the licensing that comes around every month for the software that you've got on top. Uh, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, Cisco, trusted, liked, um, good reputation for reliability. One of the non-AI things that I thought was really significant in here was getting this Nexus dashboard that is unified management for both NexOS as well as the ACI, the software-defined networking, and bringing Hyperfabric in as well. This has long been a criticism for Cisco of we've got too many different consoles for managing the different pieces, bring them all together. So I like that coming along as well. And this idea of an AI factory is really important for large enterprises. Getting started, getting to the point where you can actually run some AI applications, the first use case is difficult, but scaling to hit 20, 30, 50, 200 different use cases within your organization is incredibly difficult. And so the more prescriptive guidance, the more of a scalable and particularly scale out architecture that you can build for hosting these applications over time is going to be really critical. I think Cisco's really well placed here. And of course, Tom, you've been a Cisco fan for a while. Uh, do you see AgenticOps being a thing that's going to help you as now the CCIE?
I think it's going to move the needle because it's another tool in the toolbox that Cisco certified individuals can use. I don't know what the adoption rate's going to look like, though, because we've seen this a lot from the past. And honestly, talking to a bunch of people around Cisco Live, there was chuckling. It's like, oh, look, it's Prime again. Oh, look, it's Cisco Works again. I used those for a while, and then they put them out to pasture because the next new thing came along. Maybe this one's going to have a little bit more legs because it's being fed and growing, kind of like an AI algorithm normally does. But ultimately, you get to a point where the system's going to be running, and then someone's going to go, well, if it's not really providing us up-to-date information on a regular basis, why are we paying for this? Because we all know that the reason why to do this is because it involves a yearly licensing fee, right? This is the ultimate completion of Chuck turning that big ship, turning them from the John Chambers box pushers are us into the sleek and subscription-based Cisco of the future that makes the investors very happy. But I also think that there are challenges that are going to be faced by all tech companies with some headwinds and policy decisions made above the CEO level by people in Washington, D.C., that are going to have to be overcome in order to make sure that these things are not regulated into oblivion, or worse yet, unleashed on an unsuspecting populace to do things that could create problems down the road. But I don't want to naysay too much about that. I just want to sit back and see if people adopt this, or if not, maybe I'll just need to start studying for the CCIE AI. Who knows?